It doesn't matter how old you are. All of us have probably seen the Schoolhouse Rock video about how a bill becomes a law. I'm pretty sure they're still showing that in schools today. And if you've spent any time in the politisphere or around it, I think we all know that's just the tip of the iceberg. But my guest today is just an ordinary Texan who was in our nature park when she had an idea that has now become law in Texas. It's time to spill some sweet tea. Hello everyone and welcome back to the Sweet Tea series. My name is Ariana Guajardo. Thank you guys for coming along. Make sure that you like and subscribe and share this with anyone. Today I'm excited to be joined by Abby Gibson, and this is your first time on this show, and is this your first podcast as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Well, I'm super excited to have you here. As I was saying in the introduction, you're just a Texan who had an idea that's now law. How does that feel?
It's pretty cool.
Yeah, was it, well, I know that had to been obstacles around the way, or a lot of things that you had to check off as you're helping push it through. But another reason why we got connected is because you're part of the Liberty Leadership Council. Will you explain what that is?
Yes, so I got involved with Liberty Leadership Council a few years ago through Texas Public Policy Foundation. And I had a friend who photographs a lot of the events with TPPF. And she said, you know, there's this group of think tanks and they get together all the time and I think you should meet them. So that's what my intro to TPPF. And then through that, I found that there was a group called the LLC, and it is for 21 to 40-year-olds interested in policy. And so I signed up from there.
And they hold a lot of events where we people who are employees at TPPF come to speak about policy, and then you do some other is there something called like the Day at the Capitol? Have you done that one before?
Yes, I've done that one. We do events all over the city. There's different chapters around the state. The Austin one has one coming up in October for Maha. So we're excited about that. We're going to do a trip to Boggy Creek Farms, and we have a panel speaking about all things Make America Healthy Again, but right here in Texas. And yes, I did a trip to the Capitol for a legislative day.
So because of that and getting plugged into all of that, was that part of what let you know whenever you had an idea that this is something that you could do something about?
You know, LLC helped me to understand that I can have a seat at the table, that you don't have to be a top-tier politician to have a voice, that our political figures represent us and what our needs are. So if anything, I think the LLC and TPPF gave me confidence on how to have these conversations, where to go to find more information, to become educated on what you want to speak on. And it just kind of led from one thing to the next.
That's awesome. Well, let's get a little bit more specific. So this is House Bill 3088, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, ma'am.
So what does it do?
So the idea is that, well, let me just start where the idea came from. So I hike a lot. I go to a lot of state parks. I'm a big fan of hyper-local activities, from shopping to exploring. And when I go into these state parks, they have stores, they have ranger stations, and it's fun to get a memento, or if you're Christmas shopping and you want something unique from
like
Texas.
Little ornaments or something.
Yeah, ornaments, coffee mugs, shirts, you name it. But every time you flip them over, it says made in China. And so that's disheartening to me, being that I like to buy American-made, Texas-made products. So I went onto the TLO website, Texas Legislative Online, and researched, is there any bill that supports procuring goods that are made in Texas and made in America over other products? And from what I could find, there wasn't anything proposed on that. So when I went to the legislative day, I met with Senator Campbell's team, and I proposed a couple policy ideas, and that's where it started.
And so this was you said with Senator Campbell's the one who got it started. And then you ended up meeting with someone on the House side. Can you tell me a little bit about that?
So after I proposed the idea, they said, we're going to research it. So they do the research. They have their legislative team. They look at it to see if it's original or if it has been brought up before and not passed. And it had not. So then I emailed later to follow up. You know, I'm excited about this. If it passes, if we can prioritize Texas-made products and American-made products in the state parks and use our tax dollars that source these goods and keep them in our local economy, I think that would be a victory for Texans. And along the way, they said, yep, we've authored this, we're drafting it, we're passing it through different committees, we'll keep you posted. So fast forward, it gets passed, which is exciting because only 14% of policy that was proposed in the 89th session passed. And what I find is that Representative Orr was the author. So when you think of the senators and the representatives that are working on all this legislation, it's not linear. A lot of times they are all working together. They're crossing over into different committees. And a lot of times there's really good nonpartisan bills that they all collaborate on. And I think this was one of them. So Representative Orr, she had met with Texas Parks and Wildlife Department before session began and had asked them if there was any needs for their department or anything that she could do to support them, which I think is awesome. And one of them was about procurement. So the way that the policies were written, there was certain regulations that did not prioritize American-made products or Texas-made products. It was more so whatever was probably the least expensive. So she worked to author the bill. She worked with a couple different representatives, and then they what's it called?
They co-signed on the bill? Or
Co-sponsored.
co-authored? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So they had a co-sponsor from the Senate side.
I feel like we get so much to remember, especially whenever, like, during session, when people are just throwing out their bill numbers as well. Like, especially on our policy team here, they're just throwing numbers at me. I'm like, guys, you're going to have to give me a title here. I can't keep up with just the numbers.
Well, it was co-sponsored by a senator. And so what happened was it was brought to a vote and it passed unanimously. So it was all yays, and it lifts some of the restrictions on how Texas Parks and Wildlife can source what gets put into their stores.
And it was, I think that's like a really significant thing that you mentioned, that it was unanimously passed. So this is like a bipartisan piece of legislation. Did that in any way, like, did that surprise you that it would be unanimous?
I don't think so. I think there's more common sense than we give folks credit to. And I think that a lot of our representatives and a lot of citizens of Texas want the same things. It's common sense. If our state parks are funded through our tax dollars, a lot of them through vehicle fees. And so if we're already paying all this money for our wonderful state parks and the salaries of the people that work in them, and then sourcing goods inside of them to sell, all of that is coming from taxes. So we should keep the tax money here as much as possible.
Mm-hmm. And you've been the kind of person, especially recently, that's been kept up to date and in the sphere of politics and stuff like that. So I'm pretty sure that you've seen this. But every session, especially at the beginning, you'll hear a lot of jokes from the legislators kind of poking fun at DC and the culture there versus what you have in Texas. And that's because in Texas, they at least try to work with the other side, at least on like a couple of issues. So there's a lot, from what I've seen at least, it seems like there's a lot more rapport between both sides of the aisle than you see in DC. It's been interesting, though. I'm not sure if that's starting to slip, but I guess it's nice that there's still some issues like this when it's about the state and where people can come together on that.
Right. I'm sure there's still some spiciness between certain folks. I don't know if it would be politics without that, but I'm overall pretty proud of our representatives here. Mm-hmm. I find they're very easy to get in touch with. I find that they are responsive, and I think they're doing a good job.
So were you the first person from among your friends to have gone through that process of like reaching out to a legislator, proposing something like this that became law?
As far as I know, yes. I told a couple people about it and they're like, okay, great. What does that mean? What does that mean?
So how do you explain it then to people who are outside of the process?
Well, I just say that, I had this opportunity for a legislative day. I got to meet with some people that represent us, and I had an idea, and we talked about it, and then, they bumped it along, and they decided that it was good for Texas and that we should do this and amend the bill that caused restrictions for Texas Parks and Wildlife.
Mm-hmm. Well, while we're on, I guess, the subject of how the legislator works, at the beginning I talked about how, like, we all watched, I think, the Schoolhouse Rock thing at some point in our education. It's interesting, though, how many bills die, and Texas is kind of set up in order for bills to die to keep legislation slow moving. So something being brought up for the first time ever, finding its way through the legislative process is a pretty impressive thing.
It's pretty cool. And somebody told me that one time, I think it was Representative Carrie Isaac that slow government is not necessarily bad government. And I think that's brilliant because we should not be in a rush to pass laws. We should really think on them. We should, I'm a big fan of small government. And so this bill cuts down on some of that. And I think that's good.
Yeah. So with this, this issue starting with something like state parks, the reason why I thought it was so interesting, Olivia, so she's the one who oversees the LLC chapters and stuff in Texas. And whenever she mentioned this, I thought that it was so interesting, the idea that you had because you were just hiking. You saw like Made in China over and over and you decided to do something. Do you think that other Texans see that kind of stuff in their day-to-day life? And like some small things that might trigger, oh, I wonder why our state doesn't do this instead.
I hope they do. I look at Austin and I look at little towns around Texas and all of these artists and curators and designers that we have right here in our state and how much talent there is. And I would love to see those vendors prioritized in our parks. And I am more prone to support local artists and curators than I am to support something stamped Made in China.
Right. But I guess what I'm wondering is even outside of this specific issue, you found something that was just something that you wouldn't have come across unless you were living out your regular life. Like you just happen to go to nature parks because that's the kind of thing that you do. And I wouldn't be surprised if just ordinary Texans notice something like it'd be, something different, but in their day-to-day life of, oh, maybe the state should prioritize this instead. What do you think are some of the barriers that keep people back from getting engaged in the legislative process?
I think maybe just not knowing where to start or how to do that. I think a lot of people don't realize that they can email their representatives at any time, that they can call their local district offices, that they can schedule time to go to the Capitol. I think people don't know that they have a seat at the table.
Right. So for you, you mentioned that you had a friend who recommended this to you. Were you already involved in other political stuff, though?
I was not. My first interest in politics was during COVID because I'm a mother. And the local independent school district, the way they tried to assert certain authority over my children sparked an interest as to what are my rights.
So it was a parental rights fight that got you into it.
Yes, ma'am.
We've been talking a lot about that here at the foundation. So, of course, since you've been plugged into it, you know how long the school choice fight has been going on.
Yes,
also,
ma'am.
I feel like I get TPPF bonus points by bringing up school choice now in a podcast.
I was at the bill signing.
Oh, you were?
That was such a fun day.
Oh, it was.
Yes.
And it was so sweet seeing the kids on the balcony and stuff like that.
And the coloring pictures of all the pups, of all the golden retrievers.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh, that was fun. Yeah.
But it was so sweet. They even handed out like the Sharpie pens and stuff to everyone at the end from the signing. But I think that was a really interesting turning point, not just for you, but probably a lot of parents too. And I think it was because the classroom also being online was the first time parents saw the classroom
what was being
from that.
taught, right.
Yeah. Was that the same case for you?
Yes, it was. It was from my children going to a little Baptist preschool and then going into a very awesome public school. But then during COVID, everything changed. And I feel like critical thinking went out the window. And there were some massive changes in the classroom. They did everything that they could to make sure that it was sanitized and disinfected. So my 5-year-old could not have anything that was soft or comforting or tactile unless it could be completely disinfected. They could not hold hands with their friends. They could not get picked up if they fell down on the playground. There was just a lot of stuff that was not common sense. And I had to figure out, okay, what are my rights here?
Wait, go back a little bit. You
Yeah.
said that if he fell down on the playground, like he couldn't get picked up?
Right. So everyone was so scared that they didn't want to touch anybody. And so with these little kids, they tried to mask them, and they didn't want to touch them. And physical touch is so important in your formative years.
So now that you've gotten more engaged in stuff with the political process or even with just keeping an eye on policy and thinking about that, how does that change the way that you teach your kids or you help teach them about liberty?
Well, I am raising 2 micro-patriots.
I love that.
They bleed red, white, and blue, and they love Jesus. And They have really good political acumen, I think, for their age. My son is the state government political reporter for his classroom, and that was not my doing. He did that all on his own.
And how old is he
now? He had
now?
an interview and everything. He's 11.
Oh, that's so sweet.
So he's fascinated with the news and checking out what's going on around the state and what happens next. We've visited the Capitol a few times. I try to pour into him on history, and I love this country so much. I want to make sure my kids are really grateful that this is where we live.
Mm-hmm. Has the Maha stuff been part of that as well?
Yeah, I think I was kind of a crunchy mom before Maha started. I've always been a little suspect about stuff in a box. And
well, how long have you been in the Austin area? I feel like if you're in the Austin area long enough, you get kind of crunchy, at least in some things.
Right? That's a fact. I've been in Austin, I think I'm going on 15, 16 years now.
Yeah, that's enough time to get a little crunchy.
Yes.
Whenever
absolutely.
my family, I was born here in Austin, and when my parents lived here, they were much more, I feel like they were so crunchy. I had such an almond mom back then.
Yes.
Like it was, one of my parents' proudest moments, they said, was whenever I was like 5 and I was at a friend's birthday party and I was offered Kool-Aid and I asked what that was because I had never had it before. And they said that was one of their proud parent moments when I was a kid.
My daughter, she was in tears one time. She was so mad at me. And she's like, look, Mama, everyone else gets a Lunchable and they get Oreos and they get all this cool cheese in this wrapper and I don't. And she was so mad at me. And I was like, Finn, I'm not going to budge on this. Like, I love you. No, we're not doing Lunchables. We're not doing it. It's not good for you.
See, that's impressive. What's one of your crunchiest mom things that you do?
My crunchiest mom things?
I can my new crunchy thing, and part of this is I realized that I had like an egg sensitivity, so someone told me I should try duck eggs. Yes. So now there's a farm that's just like, it's actually crazy. It's in East Austin in the middle of a neighborhood, and there's just this 1 acre cut out of it, and I get fresh duck eggs from there.
That's awesome. So I like duck eggs for baking.
Yep.
I like farm fresh eggs. I like raw milk.
Okay, so you got on the raw milk train too.
Yeah. I don't know if I can say that live. Can I say that? I think
it's still allowed.
I'm part of a herd share, so it's legal. I do sourdough. I try to make everything from scratch when I can. And yeah.
Has that changed any of the friendships that you've had over time, like the political stuff or any of the Maha things?
You know, I'm one of the most conservative Christian people in my friend group. And I don't know that it has impacted our relationship that much because I want to have conversations with people, and I think that's a good talking point too. Is that we need to see people beyond what their political beliefs are, and we need to see like there's another human talking to you, or it's another whole person right across from you, right? Regardless of what your extracurricular activities are or where you sit with party lines.
That's amazing. I feel like it's been weird especially after the Charlie Kirk passing away, kind of some people drawing a line in the sand, and not even me doing this, but seeing it from other friends and stuff that started unfollowing me on Instagram, or they were saying I kind of had a lot of grace for people who were mentioning the gun control stuff. I mean, I'm super 2A, but I'm like, well, they don't know any better and they think they're trying to help someone. But the people who were saying he deserved it, I feel like there's just lines that were being drawn within that. But I'm glad to know that there's still some sanity within other friendships and stuff like that.
It's really hard. And I think we have a lot of keyboard warriors. I think we have some real brave people that wouldn't say squat to your face.
Keyboard warriors. I'm going to use that.
Yeah.
That's good.
Yeah. They're real brave when you're not looking at them. And I don't think that we are going to get very far if we keep attacking each other. I think the violence has to stop. The Charlie Kirk assassination was devastating. To me, it was most difficult because it was, he was a Christian. He was a Christian martyred for his beliefs and what he spoke on. And that's devastating. I think we have to keep having hard conversations. And I think we have to understand that not everyone's going to think just like us and that that's okay. It doesn't mean you can be hateful and call for violence.
So what encourages you then? You mentioned that you tend to be the more conservative and hardcore Christian of the friends that you have. What are some of the things that you either listen to or what you engage in that help keep you encouraged in that?
Well, I get into the Word every morning. I think that's my rock. And, I try to remind myself, like, I'm not here to please other people. I'm here to make sure God is okay with the choices I'm making and the things that I'm doing. So I'm serving, that's who I'm serving. I'm not serving other people. And that, I would like to think, helps direct my path and my relationships and my words.
Do you have a reading plan that you use for the Bible, or what do you do for that?
So I'm on an interesting Bible journey because I'm non-denominational. I was raised Lutheran. I listen to a Catholic podcast.
Are you doing Bible in a year?
Yes.
I love Bible in a year.
This is my third year doing it. I do it every year. It's my favorite way to start my day.
See, I do like Bible in year and a half, so I'm barely on it my second time. Yeah, well, I take a little bit longer. I do it on my weekday drives in, so yeah, I'm definitely behind for this year. But
I get behind in June. For some reason, in June I'm paddleboarding and I'm not doing my Bible study like I'm supposed to. But yeah, I do that, and then I like to use the Bible app so I can look at different versions of the Bible and translations, like.
You're just like checking off all my favorite things right now.
Well, like the Ethiopian Orthodox.
Oh, do you look at that one too?
That's fascinating to me. Like, I want to know what they think and what their Bible says, because that's the oldest version.
You're going to get, we're love that kind of stuff.
Lunch.
I know, and have a whole other thing.
Yes.
That and the Coptics are so interesting to me, especially because they were like, sorry, I'm going to go on just a tiny tangent for everyone here.
I'm here for it.
It's so interesting because they were like in a little microcosm separate from some of the other evolutions within Christianity. So you get some interesting practices and stuff. I also, so I'm Catholic, but my husband's Eastern Catholic, which not a lot of people know exist. But I like, and we have a ton of Orthodox friends, but I love seeing what traditions they've had as well that we still share, because that tells me, well, this is a tradition that's at least came before 1054, before the schism. So it's really interesting.
It's fascinating. And I love history. And I think that's where the history is. I'm diving into the book of Enoch right now.
Okay.
Which is a lot. But I'm having fun reading it.
Okay, we need to have a separate coffee for that. I did, I think I only read part of the first book of Enoch it was one of I did religious studies in college, and it was for one of those. It's interesting. Nice.
Yes.
We can, oh my gosh, it's so awesome. So, but a lot of that you're mentioning right now is individual study that you're doing. Is there anyone else that you have that like creates that kind of community for you to encourage you in engaging?
Well, so the LLC I have a blast with. As far as, are you asking like political activities or?
Well, sure, that, or even like just Christian community you've been able to make. I feel like in liberal cities you find pockets of it, but you have to seek it out. It's not the default where we're living to have that.
Yeah. Or maybe it's just not the loudest. I don't know that it's a minority. I think that it's just a quiet group. I think once you start talking to people, you find you have a lot more in common with them. I find that I can easily find many friends that are also Christians, or maybe they haven't been to church in a while, but if I invite them, they're interested in going. The church I go to does a lot of really great breakout groups, which is nice. So they've got stuff that they do specifically for men. They have stuff they specifically do for women. And I think that's important. And they also prioritize children. So the front few rows of the church are reserved for all of our teenagers so that they can be front row when they're worshiping. And I love that so much, because our kids need to know that, they are the future. We're raising them up to shatter the ceilings. And I love seeing them in the front row.
See, I love that too, because it's saying this is for you. Yeah. And this is something that you can join in. That's wonderful. I feel, so I don't have any kids yet. My husband and I definitely want to start a family soon, but I sometimes wonder about in the Austin area if there is that kind of community. I realized, I think it was towards the end of college, and I think I was already working here at the foundation or interning here, but I forgot whose family I saw, and I realized I hadn't seen like a family just walking around with like mom, dad, and kids in a long time, since like in the little microcosm between UT and downtown that's just not around.
Not common?
Yeah.
Interesting.
So, but I guess, how do you find those kind of mom circles and encouragement whenever you're, liberal blue city, or this is I think Austin is still a very young adult kind of town. Yeah,
it is. When my kids were little, they're 10 and 11 now. When they were little, I joined a group. I think maybe I found it on Facebook, but it was Free Forest School. And it was a bunch of crunchy moms that would get together and go to different parks. And if your kid was barefoot, no one said anything. And if they didn't want to wear a diaper, nobody said anything. And if, you got 2 hours of sleep and your hair looked terrible, nobody said anything. It was just like this awesome network of moms that just wanted to be in nature and just wanted to breathe fresh air and let their kids run wild and be feral. And that was super fun to do all over Austin. We did that for a few years.
So you just find the crunchy moms in the area?
I think so. I think if you put the word out, they'll find you too.
So I love that. There's always pockets where you can find similarities.
I think so.
For me, the bigger community stuff that I've been able to build, and I've gotten a little bit away from this because we go to my husband's, like his home parish a little bit more, but I was really involved at the cathedral downtown. And it's interesting that, again, Austin being blue city, you're walking around seeing some interesting things, interesting types of people who you definitely know you would not be aligned on. But it's just another pocket of a ton of conservative Christians who all live just normal lives. But you can find, like, there's in our group chat for the Cathedral Young Adults, they clean it out at least every other year. And there's over 800 people in the group chat.
That's incredible.
And at the events, it's over 150 people. So it still is encouraging how that's...
Do y'all get together then?
Yeah.
Outside of church?
Yes, but it's usually there's every single day there's an event happening with groups.
Okay.
We started doing small group Bible studies.
Nice.
And I've been terrible. I haven't gone back to mine in a little bit. But it started with just one girl being like, "Oh, we need to like have something that's a little bit more intimate and intentional." So it started out with like 10 people, and now there's I think like 7 different community groups. Yeah, that keep because it gets to about 40 people that don't fit in one house. So you break apart, make sure it's smaller
Bible studies. That's a good problem to have.
It is, yeah. But it's been really sweet seeing that grow. And some of those people now, getting married, starting to have kids. So I'm interested in seeing how that transforms over the next few years.
That'll be fun. You'll be a good mom.
Oh, thank you.
It's the coolest thing. Being a mom is the coolest thing.
I'm looking forward to it. Whenever Jesus is ready to bless us, we're here for all of it.
That's a good plan.
So what kind of things are you looking forward to with LLC or other stuff moving forward? What are you excited for the state of Texas?
What I'm excited for the state of Texas, I keep hearing this word about like stewardship. Like I'm so grateful that I was given my kids to be a steward over. And I think about my home and the responsibility of being a good steward over what I have been given. And I keep hearing that with regards to Texas legislature. And I would really like to see our representatives be good stewards of what we have. I would like to see them putting Texas first in every capacity. I would really like to see our veterans taken care of through and through. I would really like to see something done with property tax. I know that...
Wouldn't we all?
Well, and it's common sense, right? It's common sense. Like Texas has a great economy. Texas brings in a lot of cash flow. Homeowners pay a lot of cash flow to the purse, right? So I would like to see some better stewardship of all of those things, I think.
So let's say that there's someone who's watching this episode and they're really inspired by the fact that you saw something, you chose to get involved, and they're like, I'm glad that there's other people who are doing that, but I couldn't do something. What would you tell them?
I would say, yeah, you can. Like, it's okay to be bold and big and take up space and, take your shot.
Well, I know it can seem like such a big leap to just say, oh, well, just call your legislator and make it happen. What is something that's the first step? Like, what is the first step someone can take to getting involved in the politisphere?
So I think the first step is figuring out who represents you. And you can do that online. But most people don't know who their school board representative is. They don't know who their city council member representative is. They don't know who their commissioner is. They don't know who their state rep is. They don't know who their federal reps are. I think that's important because those are the people that are speaking for you and your neighbors. So I would say find out who represents you first and then just shoot them an introductory email. Maybe find out when the meetings are. Maybe see if they need help with anything.
And if people want to be able to get in touch with you or join some of the things that you've been able to join, what's the best way to get plugged in so they have a community to do that with?
Well, if you're 21 to 40 years old and you're in the Austin area or in a pocket of Texas that has an LLC, I would say sign up for that and find me there because that's been really cool to meet professional, like-minded people. The events and the panels that they schedule speak to me and they help me become more knowledgeable about things. The networking and connections is awesome. And I'm also at a lot of Republican events around the state.
So just find your local chapter to get plugged in.
Right.
With LSC, there are so many chapters now. I think they just opened, or I think there's one in the Rio Grande Valley now, which is where I grew up.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So if you are somewhere in Texas and you're like, I just need normal people to hang out with.
Right.
Oh, before the show, we were talking about how in college, the way I got plugged into stuff was, okay, I'm pro-life and I don't want to introduce myself with my preferred pronouns.
Right.
Like, where do I go hang out with normal people?
Right.
So if you want normal people who are just young professionals,
Yep.
would highly recommend the Liberty Leadership Council. I've met so many wonderful people through that too. And I'm like
It's
kind of only there part-time. Yeah.
Yeah, it's incredible, all the people that are connected. And it's every kind of a background. It's fascinating. I really enjoy going to
It's been
those.
nice seeing some of the people who like have families now too, like, you know, like the young families and stuff that are getting involved in that. So
yeah, the Maha event will be family friendly.
Oh,
which is
really?
cool because we're noticing a lot of people want to come to stuff and they do have families. So let's have something where the micros can come.
I'm going to go find this event and put it on my calendar
Yes,
now they're talking
please
about
do.
it. So yeah, everyone, go find this, the Liberty Leadership Council. You can go to texaspolicy.com. I'm not sure what the slash is for that, but if you Google Liberty Leadership Council, or Jefferson's going to throw it on the screen. Thank you and post Jefferson.
Yeah, I was going to say, can someone help? Someone post it.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to come speak to me and stuff. We're definitely going to have a coffee about the Book of Enoch.
Yeah, I think we should.
After this.
But that's a lot to unpack.
Yeah, maybe a different episode if it gets crazy enough. But yeah, thank you so much for taking the time. Thank you for everyone who is watching this. Again, if there's something that you want to be changed, you can do something about that. And build communities, because I really think that this, not only in the state of Texas, but in America, we're seeing there's something changing right now.
Yeah.
And I encourage everyone to try to be a part of that. So thank
agree.
you again. And this has been the Sweet Tea series. I'll see you next time.